the first question that I have for you is, in the space of all of the learning that we have to do, I would love to hear what's the one thing you felt like you had to unlearn, the biggest unlearned lesson that you had in your journey. And I also want you to consider, as you introduce yourself and you share, because I want each of you all to do that, is to kind of share a little bit of your expertise in that, and perhaps how it aligns with that thing that you had to unlearn.
You want to go first? Yeah.
Sure, I'll start. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So thank y'all for the question, and really excited for the opportunity to be here. So when I think about that, the first thing that comes to mind is just work hard and everything else will work out. You know, many of us have heard that. Just work hard and everything else will work out. And a little bit about my background, I've been in corporate working in insurance, also as a leader for the last 15, 16 years. And you can work hard, you can do all the things, and put your head down and all that. And there's a lot of folks that still don't get just due, don't get the recognition, don't get the opportunity, the promotion, all the things. And so learning that it's more than just literally working hard. There's a bit of a strategy to this.
Yeah.
Whether it's relationship building, whether it's positioning, whether it's branding. There's a lot of different elements that you have to really utilize to be able to accelerate yourself in business. And I've had to learn that not only in corporate, also in my entrepreneurship journey as well. So I would say just working hard, yes, you need hard work. There's no doubt about that. But you need a little more than that.
Thank you, Elijah. I noticed how you were letting me go. So my name is Sheba Roy. I am a public relations expert in the city of Houston. I primarily work in Houston. I would call myself a second generation entrepreneur because I did watch my father build a business. He also passed away when I was 16 from bladder cancer. So I never really saw the dream fulfilled. I had a high-powered corporate job that required a lot from me, and it really broke me. I actually had a nervous breakdown at work. Yeah. So I took myself out of that corporate environment and created an entrepreneur. And so one of the things that I had to unlearn was, well, first of all, it's not hard to make money. Because again, I watched my dad try to build this business. But I found some of his invoices from HCC and all of these corporate organizations that were pretty big. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it's in my DNA, I can do this. But I had to unlearn how I felt about money coming to me, because that was a big block. It's hard to make money, and there's not a lot of money. And that's not true. Here you go.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Elijah Bland. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, I'm a storyteller, done a lot of other things in my life. But one of the things along the way that I had to unlearn in my journey, I've been building brands for years for other people. Went into building my own and started a business about 6.5 years ago that did pretty well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things that I had to unlearn not only in business, but in life, as I've gotten older, is nice guys finish last. That is partially true. It can be. But what I had to unlearn about that was the competitive side of me, because we talked about that too. As an athlete, highly competitive, still am. But treating people well, ultimately, is the win. And that goes a long way in anything you do, and especially in business. And as I built a team and started to really see the impact that you have employing people and leading people in any kind of way, you know that you do right by people, it's going to come back to you at some point. And in a big way, in a major way that really matters, not just the temporary things, not just the money, not just the notoriety, not just the Instagram likes and follows and all that stuff, but really truly caring about people. Maybe unlearn the notion that nice guys finish last.
And I love that you said authenticity. And in a lot of the work that I do, it's like, let's take the woo-woo. Hey, Sharon. Well, let's take the woo-woo out of it, right? Like, so what does authenticity And sometimes it's like, oh, keep it real, or sometimes it's, oh, share more, you know, like be open. And so, and I want to take two different perspectives from the both of you on authenticity and how it's a part of our brand. But when you consider driving demand, right, you're in the space of publicity, visibility, driving that demand, how does that connect to authenticity, and what are you expecting maybe from your clients in the space of authenticity?
Well, I always say that you need to brand first. So everything that Elijah just said is everything that we make sure that you have done or we're going to do before we start pitching you. Because that is really one of the most difficult things about taking on a new client is everybody wants to go on Good Morning America. And unfortunately, they don't care about you. You know, we have to give them something that says, oh, this is story that we could share with our viewers. Like, I can't just go up there and say, hey, I got a new barbecue shack. Well, why is this one important, you know? So when we talk about authenticity, and I have clients who will have real stories, like I'll give y'all an example, and she's shared this now, but previously I had a new client come on, we were having an event, and, you know, of course she wanted to go on TV. And so we're talking, and she pulls off of her wig. She has cancer, stage 4 breast cancer, and she tells me, but we can't tell anybody. And I'm like, well, girl, you don't want to go on TV because that's the story, right? So sometimes I have to hold those secrets and come up with a way to create story, but really authenticity is what helps us drive that. So if people really want to go where they say they want to go, then you will be open to me saying, this is real, you know, because sometimes we think the story is not what's the story. It's whatever is human and relatable. That's what people want to show to their viewers.
Authenticity, human, relatable. And I hear something about contracts, okay, get you a good attorney, because that's going to help, you know, trusting that contract in the space of partnership. But then I really heard from you, it's just there's also accountability, because I am the owner, I am the leader. And what am I better understanding about myself? Who am I in this? A word. Okay, so now I would love to hear Sheba from you, right? So you hear a story like this, and she's like, I don't know what I'm ready to share. Okay, Sean, you prep me for that one. But this is also, and I think that thinking about, in hindsight, the things that might break us, the mistakes, right? And we know that they're not losses, they're actually lessons. But what do you feel like happens early on in our career, whether it is works positively for us, or it could be setting us up for a loss, which eventually becomes a lesson. Mm-hmm. But what might happen early on in building a business or building our brand or in our career that could be an avoided pitfall, especially when you're thinking about how do we grow, how do we build this brand?
Well, something that happens early on that could be an avoided pitfall was first running out of money. Well, just kidding. But, you know, I think it's just like what we were just talking about. It's not being prepared for those partnerships and for those agreements, you know, because I've had agreements where I feel like, gosh, I didn't charge enough for this. You know, you don't know your rate that's really going to be the one that you should charge for the work until you do it. So, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you should kind of get out there and practice a little bit so you know what to charge. But I always tell people, don't get trapped in a loop of continual practice, because how often or how long do you really need to do that before you're the expert, right? Because there are people who are watching you and they know you're good at what you do, but they also know that you're not confident because you're brand new and you're trying to get business and build a portfolio, and those folks will use you. So if you don't put a boundary and a stop on how long you're going to practice, so I always tell people I'm mentoring, just do it at least 3 times. So you know how it works, so you know what to charge, and so you have a good example of having done it, right? And then go out there and actually charge the rate. So I feel like that's it for me. That's my answer.
And that's a word. Anybody feel discomfort in setting a price for your service? Raise your hand if you sometimes have felt that discomfort. Okay, put your hand down. Raise your why. You got to know your story. You got to know your worth, and then know the game. And there's something powerful that I always like to say to myself is self-reflection leads to powerful self-expression. So if you're going to express that why, express that story, express that worth, you better be reflecting. Because if not, you won't have the language to articulate the nuances of who you are, that value, that why, that worth. And then it makes it real difficult to know and play the game. All right, so now we've got a couple minutes left, okay? So get ready for like a spitting fire rapid thing, okay? But before we do that, I want to ask one more question for you, Sheba, and then y'all get ready for your final question, which you don't know what it is yet. But we've been talking about the building the brand, what we can do to improve it, how we can maybe even rebound from some challenges. Now we are successful, okay? We making a lot of money and we want to make more money and we want to have greater and bigger impact. So when we think about driving demand, and I know that you have a book too. What's it called?
The book is called Demand Driver.
Demand Driver, okay. So in this space, we are going to go all buy these books, but if one maybe direction that we can all take so that we can continue to drive demand so that we can have greater impact, both financially and then also socially.
Okay, so it's just a basic principle of supply and demand, right? So even though we're not new business owners, let's all just pretend for the sake of the exercise that we're entering the market. And even though we say we're entering the market, we're not necessarily talking about a physical market, but as a person who also operates markets, it's really not that different, okay? So when you're entering the market, let's say we have a table here that has everything they ever created on the table, but nobody knows them. So we don't have any shoppers because, you know, the demand is not high because they're brand new. So how do we figure out, how do we get people over to that table? If you're in the market and you have a lot of supply, you have to send yourself or somebody else into the market with samples and something that's going to bring people back to you, right? That is the most basic way that I can explain to you guys how to drive that demand. So Mr. Muhammad, you know, we're working on some projects so that we can drive up that demand. He's an attorney, just for everybody who needs a contract.
And that's her fiance.
Absolutely, thank you. Sorry, I was not expecting to drop that to you. Thank you, Shahara. But yeah, so that's really it. So find a way, so like, okay, if you're a service provider, that means that you need to provide your service to a few people. Hey, let's do this together. So remember we were talking about practicing? You can do this all in one. You don't have to split it. You can drive demand and get your portfolio together in the same exercise, right? So you're going to give out some, you're going to get those examples, and then you're going to start posting about it. Look at what we're doing. Show people what you're doing. Show people what the client is doing. Show the outcome and the impact of your service, you know, because that's really it. We just don't know you. So introduce us to you, be authentic, and then just be really, really consistent. And it might take a while. Like, honestly, it has taken me actually 3 years to get onto a stage to talk about this. But that doesn't mean that 3 years ago I didn't know it. It just meant that nobody knew me. So I had to go to rooms, I had to introduce myself, I had to put myself online, and I had to be confident and grow into the self that I am today.
Good stuff. So what's your sample, okay? And are you taking that sample and putting it out in the world? Now, final question for my panelists. One thing that I always pray that when I go...
Okay, before I do that, I know we don't have a lot of time. I want to say thank you to Tatiana. Yes. And I also I want to congratulate her on the birth of her baby, which is the Our Power Summit, because we are here. Somebody came from a whole other state. You did. And that is remarkable, okay? So again, I am a public relations specialist, so I help people tell their story and craft image for the public. Right now, though, I am thrown into this farmer's market project in a food desert. So although I do have other clients, really we're just looking for produce vendors, and you know, we can help you sell your produce and you can help us feed people in a food desert, okay? So, you know, that's really what I'm about today. I'm not selling so much myself, I'm trying to help others feed a community.